Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging deep into the philosophical soil that has nourished one of the world's most ancient and continuous cultures for thousands of years, India. And you know, what better way to kick things off than with this ancient wise saying? It just perfectly captures the essence of our journey today. We're exploring a kind of wealth, a wealth of knowledge that has literally been growing for millennia. So how do you even begin to understand a culture that spans thousands of years? A list of dates and events just won't cut it, right? We need a better way to think about it. We need to picture it as something alive, something that's breathing. Let's picture it like this, an ancient tree. We're going to start way down at the deep roots, then move up the common trunk, and from there, we'll explore all the incredible, diverse branches that grew from it. This powerful image of a living tree, that's going to be our guide.
All right, let's dive in, starting where the tree itself begins, deep in the soil with its ancient roots. And right here is where we find a collection of sacred texts known as the Vedas.
The word Veda itself actually comes from the Sanskrit word for knowledge. And these 4 texts are just these huge compilations of thousands of hymns, poetic prayers, and songs, all composed in a very early form of Sanskrit.
Now here's the part that is just mind-boggling. How was this knowledge even preserved? Before any of it was ever written down, these super intricate texts were passed down purely by word of mouth, committed to memory with incredible precision for as many as 200 generations. Can you even imagine that?
In fact, this tradition of Vedic chanting is so unique and has been so carefully maintained for thousands of years that UNESCO itself has recognized it as a global treasure, a true masterpiece of human heritage. And here's what's so important about this. While the Vedic hymns were talking to many different gods, like Agni, the god of fire, or Indra, the god of thunder, they were all pointing to one single underlying reality. So this foundational idea of unity and diversity, it begins right here at the very roots of the tree. Okay, so from those roots, a sturdy trunk begins to grow. And this trunk represents a really profound shift in thinking, one that's captured in a new set of texts called the Upanishads. The Upanishads basically turned the whole spiritual quest inward. You see, the Vedas often focused on external things, like rituals and hymns to deities. But the sages behind the Upanishads, they started asking some of the biggest questions you can imagine about the nature of reality and our place in all of it.
And this intense soul-searching led to 2 of the most profound concepts in all of Indian philosophy. First, you have Brahman, the single, universal, divine essence that is the source of the entire cosmos. And second, you have Atman, the individual inner self, that spark of the divine that's inside every single one of us.
This led them to a conclusion that was absolutely radical for its time. The sages didn't just say the universal and the individual were similar, they said that the Atman, your inner self, is Brahman. I am divine. Now, this wasn't just some abstract philosophy. It was a psychological revolution. It completely reshaped the goal of spiritual life, from trying to please external gods to realizing the divine that's already within yourself.
And this is just the other side of that same profound realization. If your inner self is the universal reality, well, that means you too are a part of that ultimate essence. You are that. It's such a powerful statement of absolute interconnectedness.
Now, to make these really abstract ideas easier to get, the Upanishads use these beautiful stories and analogies. In one famous story, a teacher asks his son, Shvetaketu, to break open a tiny seed from a giant banyan tree. It looks empty inside, but the father explains that the invisible essence that will one day create the entire tree is already there, just like the invisible essence of Brahman contains all of reality.
So this incredibly rich philosophical soil, this trunk of Vedic and Upanishadic thought, it was only natural that it would give rise to a stunning variety of new branches and new schools of thought.
You can just imagine it. All across the land, thinkers and sages started to test these ideas. Some were trying to find new ways to actually experience this unity, while others began to question the very foundations, challenging them in really fundamental ways. As you can see from this timeline, the period around the first millennium BCE was just a hotbed of philosophical innovation. I mean, the groundwork that was laid by the Vedas and Upanishads led to a total explosion of new ideas and new spiritual paths, including the emergence of huge figures like the Buddha and Mahāvira. And this is where we see a crucial split in the branches. Some schools, like yoga,
grew right out of the Vedic trunk. They focused on developing practical methods to experience that unity of Atman and Brahman. But other major branches broke away completely, most famously Buddhism. It emerged from the very same cultural soil but flat out rejected the authority of the Vedas. It developed its own distinct path, questioning core concepts like the idea of an eternal self or Atman, and really just charted a completely new course.
So after our journey up this ancient tree, from its deepest roots all the way to its sprawling branches, what's the most important takeaway? What is the enduring legacy of this whole tradition? Well, I think the most profound and lasting contribution is this radical idea of unity. The insight that you're not just a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop. That your inner self, the Atman, and the universal essence, Brahman, are ultimately one in the same. And when you truly grasp this idea of interconnectedness, a certain kind of ethics just naturally follows. If everything and everyone is a manifestation of the same divine essence, it just leads to this feeling of universal compassion. And it's perfectly expressed in this common prayer, just wishing for the happiness and well-being of all beings.
But perhaps the most powerful legacy of all is the spirit of fearless inquiry that started the whole thing. In one Upanishadic story, a young boy named Nachiketa is so determined to find the truth that he travels to the land of the dead and asks Yama, the god of death himself, the ultimate question about what happens to the soul. That relentless, brave pursuit of knowledge, well, that's the living current that continues to nourish this ancient tree of wisdom to this very day.